Welcome to the Punting is Winning podcast. Just two fans talking all things Hawkeyes. Here are your hosts, JD and Keith.
Back, Hawkeye fans, to Punting is Winning, the All Iowa podcast. We are your hosts. He's JD. I'm Keith. Welcome back to another week of Hawkeye sports. And, interesting week, let's say that. But we'll get into that. Let's take care of a little bit of business first. Let's talk about last week's question of the week, which was, what teams in the current landscape of the 18-team Big Ten have never played in the actual Rose Bowl game? Not playing at the Rose Bowl itself, but in the actual game itself. And we had some people answer. Somebody said Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland, and somebody else said Rutgers and Maryland. And the answer is Rutgers and Maryland. Nebraska has played in the Rose Bowl game twice from my research. Once way back in the probably in the 30s, and then another time in the mid 2000s. They played in the Rose Bowl when it was a BCS game. I think it was actually the BCS National Championship, maybe when they played Florida, perhaps.
Could be. I don't remember that, but
yeah, I looking it up, I kind of was surprised because I would have said Nebraska as well, but they've been in it actually twice. Every other Big Ten team has played in it at least once. Obviously, the Pac-12 editions have played in it. A couple of them several times.
Yeah.
So they were definitely out right away. But I thought Indiana was another one, and I kind of questioned whether, but they were in there back in the 60s.
68.
68.
Yeah, 1968.
So yeah, everybody has played in the Rose Bowl except for Maryland and Rutgers, and going back through their history, Rutgers being the founder of college football, first football game in history was played at Rutgers, and they've never played in the Rose Bowl, which I don't dog them for that. They haven't been in the conference that long, and
it's all about affiliations.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on, let's jump into a little bit of basketball talk. We'll start with the ladies. They had one game this week. After the huge upset of USC, they went on the road to play Minnesota, which was an interesting travel situation for them with the ice storm that we got. Not getting in until about 12:30 the day of the game. Not really having much of a shoot around, so you kind of had anticipations that maybe there's going to be a little bit of struggle, but honestly, I think they came out with a lot of energy and a lot of fire, and they looked really, really good.
Yeah, I'll just go through this real quick with you. A 68-60 win over Minnesota in Minneapolis. Iowa was led by Hannah Stuelke with 17 points, and Sydney Affolter's double-double. She had 13 points and 14 rebounds. Did you know she had 14 rebounds?
Yeah, I did see that.
That's a lot. Lucy also contributed with 14 points and 7 assists. Iowa shot 35% from the field, 30% from three, and 64% from the free throw line. I'd like to see that up a little bit higher. I think that might doom them again, that we've already lost one game because of the free throw line.
It was frustrating to see them go up there and miss the first, make the second. And it was like, but I think when the clutch time, they started to hit them again. So
Iowa did out-rebound Minnesota 37-29. Iowa had 12 turnovers, and they forced 11 Minnesota turnovers, which is kind of unusual because I think Minnesota had, 10 at the half.
Yeah, they averaged like 6 a game or something like that.
Yeah,
they're a very
it was
low turnover
a low
team.
amount, and Iowa forced them to 11. I thought Iowa's defense has been really good the last probably 3 or 4 games. Really good. I mean, think about the Washington game. Washington wouldn't have scored near as many points as they did if they wouldn't have put Iowa's second and third team in the game late, and then they pressed, if you remember that.
Yep.
And then USC, I think they played one of their best defensive games against one of the better teams that they'll ever face, other than UCLA. Might be the best team they face all year, would be UCLA, but they played really good defense against Minnesota, and I hope they carry that through because, their next game
That'll win them a lot of games.
Yeah, it will. And we've talked about that on the men's side, but we're not going to go into that one yet. But next game is they play at Nebraska. They play in Lincoln on Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Nebraska is 16-7 and 7-5 in the conference. And also this week they they actually get to play a home game with Rutgers. Rutgers comes to town on Thursday the 13th. Rutgers is 9-14 and 1-11 in the conference. This week Iowa is now 16-7 and 6-6 in the conference. So they're still in the thick of things. I don't think there's any chance they could win the regular season title at this point.
Oh no.
But there's still a lot to play for. You're still kind of playing for a little bit for your NCAA tournament life, and you just have to keep moving on forward and put your best foot forward.
You're also playing for your Big Ten tournament seeding.
I think we're probably okay on that one.
I'm saying as far as
for seeding,
get the bye games or whatever.
Yeah, you'd want to get a good seed there, but
yeah.
But I don't think there's any chance they won't make it. No, they'll take 15, and I think Purdue will probably not be in it. I doubt very much if Rutgers is in it with 1-11 conference record. I think the other one might not be Wisconsin. Northwestern. Yeah, Northwestern probably for sure won't get in there. I don't think they've won a conference game yet.
No.
So, all good things with the girls at this point, and they're fun to watch. I enjoy watching them. I always have. There was a couple games this year you get frustrated with because they didn't make free throws, and they couldn't hit a 3-pointer to save their life, that kind of thing. But I think they're starting to hit their stride. I think Lucy's starting to take this team over a little bit. I know Sydney said that there was no way she was going to allow the team to lose to Minnesota. I thought that was kind of that's a nice thing to hear. Yeah. Kind of taking a leadership role.
They hit a bump in the road, that losing streak that they had, and I think they've kind of reassessed things. And I don't know if Jan kind of stepped back and said, I need to think of something different here, because I think the biggest issue there was they just had so many letdowns at times where, like you said, free throws would cost them a game, or, a late defensive lapse or something would cost them a game. And, you think about that losing streak. Could they lose any of those games by, more than 5 points? I mean, not very many of them.
Mm-hmm. No, it was pretty close, all of them.
So, they were in every single game. And, you'd like to have that Oregon game back.
Yeah.
And, honestly, the Illinois game, you'd like to have that back, because that free throws cost you that one. So, you get those two back instead of sitting at 16-7. You're 18-5, and instead of 6-6 in the conference, you're 8-4, and now you're really in the thick of things.
Yeah.
So, I think they reassessed their situation and have kind of focused more on the defensive side, because I've noticed that their defense has been more suffocating.
Yes.
So, yeah.
One thing I've noticed too is that when Jan moved Hannah Stuelke to the 5 and Sydney to the 4. And then they're bringing Addie O'Grady in as a replacement when Hannah either gets foul trouble or gets tired. I think that really has changed things, because I don't think Hannah was ever really comfortable at the 4.
No.
And you could tell, I think the 4 is more aligned to somebody like Affolter, who can actually shoot the ball from outside. Hannah's not a great outside shooter. She's not too bad under the basket and around in the paint, but if you need her to win a game on a 15-foot jump shot, I don't think she's going to win it for you. I mean,
yeah, if you're going to play her at the 4, she's going to be a post 4. She can't be a positionless 4, so to speak.
All right. So I think that was probably the best thing that Jan could have done is to make that switch. And
the only thing that I don't like, or I just think is unfortunate with that situation, with that switch, is that kind of cuts Ava Hayden a little bit out of the mix. It doesn't give her the opportunities. And I think she needs those opportunities because I think she's got the talent, and I don't know what that's going to do to her confidence if, we just don't have the minutes for you right now because we switched this up and we don't kind of, and obviously as a freshman, it's difficult because you don't know what trust you give to them and what you don't. And especially in conference games that are, at this point, every game's kind of a must win. I mean, not necessarily a must win, but you've got to put your best foot forward to win it.
Yeah.
Obviously you're an uphill battle when you're talking about playing against UCLA. Now, granted, that's at home, and we thought the same thing when it came to USC. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that UCLA will lose a game, and it could be at Iowa City because the atmosphere is great there. But I mean, if you're a realist, you're probably thinking that's probably a loss. So you can't really afford to lose any others at this point. So you're wanting to get to 13-7 in the conference, and that's the only game you can lose. So you've got to really do your best. So, I don't know if it's a situation where they're just not confident enough yet that she can provide the effort and what's the word I don't even know what word I'm looking for, because effort's not going to be an issue with her. She puts out effort, but whether she's up to the challenge, so to speak. Cool. So it's unfortunate that that's happened to her, and I hope that doesn't weigh on her mind that she's not good enough, because she definitely is. I think she just needs to understand that she's a freshman. She's playing, and now she's playing behind a junior and a senior. And one junior is pretty much an all-conference player, and the senior is playing very, very well right now. So you have to take those situations. Now, I can see a different situation coming when they play at Rutgers, where it's it's a home game and it's against a team that's lower division, very lower division, and it's a game you probably should win. And if you can build a decent lead or you get a chance to get her in early situations, you can. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, if she can just be patient, next year she's automatically going to be number 2 center. Mm-hmm. And with Hannah's propensity to foul and be aggressive and catch those fouls sometimes, I think she's going to have, I'd say 12 to 13, maybe more minutes a game just sitting there waiting for her to take over. I don't know why there wouldn't be any reason for that. I know there's some good girls coming in, but they're going to be freshmen.
Right.
I don't know what Iowa is going to do if they're going to go out into the transfer portal and look for anybody. They are losing a few players, Sid Affolter, Addie O'Grady, Veerbach, Lucy Olson. So, there's 4 right there that they're going to be automatically without next season. So, yeah, I mean, I know they've got, is it 4 coming in? So I don't know that there's really room to get a
you got Addie Deal,
transfer.
Layla Hayes, Journey Houston. No, I remember.
Is Jenica?
She's a 27.
Oh, okay. So she's just a junior in high school.
Yeah. I maybe there's only just the 3 that I'm.
So maybe would have room for one more.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
And that's to say that what's to say that somebody doesn't transfer. You've got a couple of girls that are still that are on the bench that aren't getting any time, like Jada Jimfy and
Callie Levine.
I'm thinking of the little point guard that got hurt late in the year last year.
Kenisa Johnson.
Kenisa Johnson, yeah. I don't know what her situation is.
Yeah, I haven't even seen her on the bench.
You also have the open scholarship that used to be Ava Jones, because I don't think that was filled this year because that was late. So, and that sad news on the Ava Jones front that they diagnosed her with cancer. I mean, that poor girl.
Prayers to her family.
Absolutely. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. There's still some players that they could possibly bring in. I don't know if they're going to save that extra scholarship or what. I don't know how they do it. So,
no, I think
there's definitely some pieces that are going to need to be replaced, but I think there's pieces in the pipeline already that can replace some of them.
I think Jan will analyze that situation and make sure that she does the best thing for the kids, they're there, and the kids going forward from that point. So we think, Jan's going to make a good decision on that. I have no doubt.
All right, so we shift gears to the men's side. They had 2 games this week.
Yeah, 2 home games. They had an 0-2 week. Not to be a spoiler, but they had an 0-2 week. Iowa lost to Purdue at Carver Hawkeye on Tuesday night, 90-81. Iowa was led by Josh Dix's 27 points and Peyton Sanford's 23 points and 6 rebounds. Also, he had 5 assists. Iowa shot 52% from the field, 37% from 3, and 62% from the free throw line. That free throw line is just a killer for both teams, apparently. Iowa was out-rebounded 33-25. They only committed 11 turnovers, which probably isn't too bad. I'd take that. I thought Iowa played pretty inspired ball the first half of that game. I thought they really come out and looked like they were really ready. I mean, especially when you talk about first game back after knowing Owen Freeman's not going to be there anymore. I think they were kind of putting his name on their back and saying, we're going to do this one for you, Owen.
That's a tough uphill task when you're facing the number 7 team in the country.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we've not done well against Purdue probably for the last 4 or 5 years. So this has been kind of
the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, that was a shocker. But one of the things, you talk about Iowa, they played a good first half. I think they were tied at the half.
Yes.
With Purdue.
Yeah, because Braden Smith hit that walk-up 3 with about 0.7 seconds.
Yeah, from about 28 feet.
Yeah.
But the sad part about it is they second half shows up. They give up 54 points in the second half. That's a lot of points to give up in the second half. They just lost that defensive intensity, and it became a situation where it almost looked like it reminded you a little bit of a pro basketball game where there was very little defense and there was a lot of good shooting and the scores were going up and up and up. I would like to see a little bit better defense.
Well, here's the thing. With about 1 minute and 20 seconds left, that was an 80-77 game.
Yeah.
And Iowa had 2 shots, 2 3-pointers that rimmed in and out that could have tied that game.
Yeah.
And, you get that to a tie situation with 1 minute to go. That's a whole different situation. That's a whole different ballgame. Iowa ended up having to foul at the end, get the ball back. So, if they could put the first half and the second half together, again, it was a tall task anyway when you're talking about the number 7 team in the country and you're doing it without your leading scorer. But I was very happy to see the excitement on Riley Mulvey's face getting his first start. And I thought he acquitted himself well.
Yeah.
He just needs to put a little bit of weight on. Outside of that, I think he could be serviceable.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a guy that's going to go out there and give you 20, 25 minutes a game.
No.
But he can give you 15 minutes a game in spot situations and put on a little bit of extra weight where he can handle a little bit more of that bumping and grinding down in the post. He probably can give you 3 to 5 more minutes out of that. But he plays inspired. He plays, like he wants to be in there, which is great. So I've been impressed with his attitude with it, and I get it. It's first he's starting, and your attitude obviously going to change. A little bit changed when you're the guy now. You're starting. You're not just the guy sitting on the bench that hardly ever plays. So good for him.
Yeah, it was nice to see Seydou Traore getting a lot more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he contributed a whole lot at Purdue, but or maybe it was Purdue and he didn't do anything with Wisconsin. Is that what the deal was? I think he did okay with Purdue.
Yeah, he did okay with Wisconsin too.
Yeah. Speaking of Wisconsin, they played Wisconsin on Saturday, February 8th, yesterday, at Carver, and they lost again to Wisconsin 74-63. They played, again, a good first half, and they were actually up by 2 at the half. But they just collapsed offensively in the second half. They only scored 24 points in the second half. So it was a situation where, against Purdue, the defense went downhill in the second half. Well, in this game, with Wisconsin, I just think that the offense went downhill. They just didn't hit. They weren't making shots.
Think about the fact that think about 7 minutes left to go in the game. Iowa was up 59-58.
Yeah.
And they scored 4 points in the last seven and a half minutes.
Yeah.
That's not good. And I felt like I don't know so much if they went away from Josh Dix or if Josh Dix kind of got too scared to shoot at some point. Because he seemed to be a non-factor in the second half at all.
Guess who was the leading scorer for Iowa in that game?
S02E24.
Nope. Bryce Sanford. Bryce Sanford scored 14 points. His brother Peyton was Iowa's best rebounder. Seydou Traore and Drew Thelwell provided 3 assists apiece. After that game, Iowa was 13-10 overall and 4-8 in the conference. Their next game is Wednesday, February 12th at Rutgers. Rutgers is 12-11 and 5-7 in the conference. They also play on Sunday, a week from today, at Maryland. So there's 2 opportunities to get things righted. I think those are 2 tall orders. I think Rutgers is pretty good at home, especially in Maryland. Maryland's good pretty much everywhere. They've had a good season. They're having a very good season. I don't know. Do you feel like there's a chance that Iowa will be left out of the Big Ten tournament?
Well, I was looking at it yesterday, and there's 8 games left in the conference? 4 and 8. Yeah, 8 games left in the conference. They need to win 3 of those games to guarantee a non-losing season. Because I don't believe going 7-13 in the conference is going to be good enough to get into the top 15. It may be. I mean, it could possibly throw them in there. I think if that's the case, you're maybe probably one and done in the conference tournament. Unless you get a good enough draw, then you're 16-16. You probably don't make an NIT at that. But you didn't have a losing season.
Well, I don't know.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the schedule, the only game I see that they have really a legitimate shot at winning is Washington on the 22nd. And that's a home game. Otherwise, I can run through the schedule what they have left right here. At Rutgers, at Maryland, Oregon at home, Washington at home, at Illinois, at Northwestern, Michigan State at home, and at Nebraska to finish the season.
The way Oregon's been playing, it's at home. There's a chance there, but I mean, it's tall order. But
you're not going to beat Michigan State.
No. Maybe you catch Nebraska at home, but I doubt it. Or on the road, I'm sorry.
Nebraska on the road, yeah.
You're not probably going to beat Northwestern on the road.
The only thing about Northwestern is they lost Barnhizer for the season. He got hurt. And I know he's one of their pivotal players, but I still think they have enough. They probably have enough to win the game. So, I look at maybe you could potentially talk me into Oregon winning at Oregon or winning with Oregon and maybe Washington. But that might be it. I'm not sure you'd talk me into any of the others and being wins. I know at Illinois, I don't think there's a good chance there. They don't play good at Illinois.
Unless somehow you manage to sneak a road game against Rutgers or something.
Yeah.
That's possible.
I just don't see it. I see it trending down and continuing to trend down. I don't see any, getting a 1 win at Washington. I mean, that's like throwing a Band-Aid on an amputee. So it's not going to help you much.
Yeah.
It's not going to get you. It's not going to keep you out of the chances of not making the tournament. And it's definitely not going to, a win there is not going to get you into the NCAA tournament.
Oh no. The NCAA tournaments has been out for quite a while.
They aren't even listed on any of the as being the last 4 out or the 4 out after that. So they're really not even I don't think they're even a discussion for that one.
They'd be lucky if they're in a discussion for an NIT bid at this point.
The only way they could get into the NCAA tournament, I believe, is that they'd have to win the Big Ten tournament.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a very tall order for this team.
But I will say that with the lack of Owen Freeman in the lineup, they have been playing more inspired.
Yeah, I agree.
So get a couple lucky breaks here, they might be able to pull 2, maybe 3 wins.
The thing I see with them is that they come out with all the energy early on, and then I think they just kind of they kind of fade. And I wonder if that's just because they don't have a really solid bench that can provide a lot of time for the starters to sit and really get rested. And I think that they go and they sit and then they're right back in the game because something happens or, somebody's getting taken advantage of. It's not a very good defensive player. I like the fact that Carter Kingsbury's getting to play a little bit. He played yesterday. I didn't think he did a bad job, but he's not going to be a prolific scorer.
No.
I mean, he should be if he was allowed to shoot, but I mean, he only scored 2 points, I think.
I tell you, I know we've talked about this before. I would honestly rather see a rotation of 3 bigs of Mulvey, Bronze, and Chris Tadjo over Ladgington Bailey.
Oh, absolutely.
He does not give you anything. He gets pushed around. Yeah, he had 5 points yesterday, whatever it was. Bounced in a 3-pointer, but he's not really giving you anything. He's kind of an old A defender. If you're not going to be a prolific scorer, you better be a really good defender. And he's not really that. He's not a good rebounder. He gets pushed out of the way a lot. He just doesn't seem to bring anything that you need. And it just almost like he's lost. And I see more effort and more desire out of guys like Riley Mulvey and Evan Bronze than I do out of Ladgington Bailey. Now, I'm not trying to dog the kid because I'm sure he's a great kid and whatnot, but I'm not seeing what earns him minutes.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it feels like, and I think you even said this too, it does feel like sometimes it's when he's in, it's 5-on-4.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there, but he's not really providing you anything. So it's almost like not having anybody out there.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed with the way because last year I thought, well, this kid continues to progress. He's going to be really good by the time he's a senior. Well, his sophomore year, he's regressed.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was better last year than he was this year. And I don't know if that's a situation where he's getting bombarded by schoolwork and he doesn't have a chance to come and shoot around at the gym as much as he was before. Maybe he's got a girlfriend and he's spending more time over there. I don't have any idea, but he just definitely is not better than he was last year.
Well, I know he put on weight and tried to bulk up a little bit, and I don't, sometimes that doesn't help a guy. That slows him down a little bit, or it transforms them to, their muscle memory is different for their shot or whatever. If you're going to do that, you better work on being a true post player then. And I think if he was to do that and you were to work him, say, look, you go post up on the block. You're not a guy that's going to stand out here at the 3-point line shooting the ball. You need to be 5 feet and in. You need to take the place of, you're now a 5. You need to take the place of what Owen Freeman gave us. You're not going to sit out here and pop threes all the time because, quite honestly, that's not your game. Learn to be a back to the basket post player. That's what's going to help the team. What he's doing is not helping.
Right.
And that's not on him. That's on the coaching.
Yeah.
That's the positionless basketball theory. And it works in some cases, in other cases it doesn't. I mean, you try to flood your team with a bunch of 6'6" to 6'8" wing players and say, let's play positionless. You better hope that those guys can shoot 40% from the 3, every one of them.
And rebound.
Because you're going to get out rebounded.
Yeah.
And you're going to get, your defense is going to lack because they can't keep up the smaller guys. That's just the way it is.
They can't block the tall ones either.
Yeah. So you're playing tweeners basically.
You can't keep up with the 6'1" guys that run right by you, and you can't defend the 6'11" and 7-footers and on up at the post.
And you think about it, what is the roster mostly made up of?
6'7", 6'8",
6'6" to 6'8".
Yeah.
Outside
Riley Mulvey's the tallest player, I think, on the team, and he's 6'11".
Yeah.
And very rarely plays, other than he's been playing more since Owen Freeman's gone out. But by the same token, the fact that he hasn't played that much is probably, lacking experience is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of get it. He was not been that great. He redshirted last year, so he couldn't have used him last year. But by the same token, even though you're redshirt, you still can go to practice.
Yeah. You should be picking it up.
Coaches should be working with him on his footwork, his shot, his technique, a lot of things that they could be working with him and staying late and having him doing drills that just makes him better.
Yeah.
And maybe they're doing that, and he's just not getting it. I don't know. But I like the kid. I like the fact that he's sold on Iowa, and he stays here, and he's doing his thing, and he graduates next year or whatever year he graduates. I can't remember since the redshirt year, if he's a sophomore considered or junior considered this year. Anyway, he should have another year. When he graduates from Iowa, he's going to be a Hawkeye. You're a Hawkeye for life.
Yep.
So, I congratulate him for staying, and you don't see that too much anymore.
No. Loyalties are not there with a lot of universities.
It's all about chasing that cash.
Chasing the cash and chasing what's good for me. And I get it. Most people want to know what's good for me.
Right.
Sometimes getting your education, because you have to understand that what are the odds, especially in basketball now, of being a star pro. Very limited. I mean, you got 2 rounds in the NBA, and the rest of it's like, okay, you played in G League, which is, you could toil in the G League for years, or you can go play in Europe, and you can make good cash over there, but you better have your education to fall back on at some point. And some of these guys don't think about the education part of it. They're like, oh well, I get this endorsement deal, and this place wants me, and I'm going to go pro, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're really not pro material based on the class you come out in.
Exactly.
You're probably maybe G League, but you're not. G League's like playing minor league baseball. You don't make a living in the G League. So anyway, let's shift our gears a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about reflecting back on our football stuff, and specifically what we predicted and how they actually came about. I've been wanting to do this for a few weeks because I wanted to see how far off we were with some of these, and boy, were we off on some of them.
Yeah, I think we had to go back to episodes back in June, was it, that we did this originally?
Yeah.
So you'll have to go back some episodes and get back to June to see what we did. And if you aren't familiar with that particular episode, we went through and predicted every Big Ten team how they would finish the season. We went won and lost, whatever, for each team. And then we predicted what we thought that their record would be at the end of that season. Now, we didn't add in, because we didn't know at the time who was going to be in the postseason,
right?
Whether it be a bowl game or the playoff or whatever. So we didn't do that. We just went basically a 12-game season that we know that it was scheduled. So there's no additions for the bowl games.
Actually, I have the spreadsheets from that time. I can pop up here on the screen.
Good.
So we'll start with yours.
Okay.
So this is how you had predicted everything. I'll maybe make this a little bit bigger.
Yeah. But if they won, if I thought they would win the game, I have them at green. If they thought that they would lose the game, I have it in red.
And I see you have the overall record up here.
I do have the overall records as I predicted. Now let's start with Illinois. I predicted Illinois to finish 6-6. They finished 9-3. That's 3 games off there. I predicted Indiana at 3-9. They finished 11-1, so I was way off on that one.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that probably would be the same way. Iowa at 10-2. They finished 8-4. I had Maryland at 7-5. They finished 4-8. So not doing too good here. I had Michigan at 9-3. They ended up 7-5. I had Michigan State at 3-9. They finished 5-7. Was only off 2 games there, both of those two. Minnesota, I predicted 5-7. They finished 7-5. Nebraska, I predicted 7-5. They finished 6-6. So I was off 1 there. Northwestern, I had them at 3-9. They ended up 4-8. Ohio State is 11. I predicted 11-1. They finished 10-2. I had Oregon at 11-1, and they finished 12-0. I had Penn State at 10-2. They finished 11-1. I had Purdue at 5-7. They finished 1-11. I had Rutgers at 6-6. They finished 7-5. I had UCLA at 3-9. They finished 5-7. I had USC at 8-4. And they finished 6-6. And here's the one I had right. Washington, I predicted 6-6. They finished 6-6. Wisconsin, I had them 9-3, but they finished 5-7. Don't take my advice when it comes to predicting teams, how they're going to finish for the season, because obviously I don't know anything about it. We'll probably do this again, and maybe next year I'll do a little bit better. But I mean, we did this in June. We didn't do it in August when we probably should have. But I thought it would be fun to do just to see what we thought. And some of this might have been, relying on the lineage, the legendary status of some of these teams when, how they had done in the past is not always going to be the same as how they do in the future or in the present. Because like Indiana, I was predicting Indiana with a new coach, going to have to get their wheels, aligned and get everything figured out. And I figured they'd be probably 3-9.
Way off.
Way off. That one's so way off, it's absurd. But who predicted Indiana this year really going 11-1?
Yeah, nobody.
If they did, I'm going to tell you right now, they're probably lying to you.
Lottery tickets.
Yeah.
So, well, that was yours. Let's jump over here and let's look at mine.
Super Bowl's this afternoon. Who you got?
My head says, or my heart says Philly. My head says it's going to be Kansas City.
Can they both lose? That would be what I would want to see, to be honest.
Ideally, that would be nice.
I'm going to root for the Eagles because of Cooper DeJean and also because I can't stand Kansas City. So for me, it's pretty easy. But by the same token, I'm not sure I'm really going to watch a whole lot of it.
Yeah, we're going to have a little Super Bowl party, but it's more for the wife to be able to watch the commercials.
And she's a big Swiftie fan, so.
Yeah, but she doesn't watch it for that. She would actually prefer her not to be shown on the screen because it's not about her, as she says, it's about the football game. And I completely agree with that. But the NFL, in its infinite wisdom, wants to have as many eyes on it, so we want to make sure that we show Taylor Swift because we know there's people watching because of that. So
yeah.
All right, let's look at mine here. Let's start out with Illinois. I was even more off than you were. I had them at 5-7. They finished 9-3. Indiana again, same thing, 3-9. They finished 11-1. I had Iowa at 11-1. Off there, 8-4. I anticipated a better year out of Maryland. Had them predicted at 7-5. It's obviously finished 4-8. I go down here to Michigan. Michigan, I had at 9-3. They finished 7-5. Kind of wasn't anticipating them not having a quarterback part of the year or most of the year that was capable. Michigan State, I had them at 4-8. They finished 5-7. If Iowa would have won like they're supposed to, I would have been perfectly right on that one. Minnesota, I was really off on them because I really did not see Minnesota as being anything this year. And I had them at 3-9, and by golly, they finished 7-5. So, and won their bowl game. So good for them. It sucks to have to say that, but Nebraska, I thought was going to be 7-5. They finished 6-6. So it's pretty close on that. The one I got exactly right, conference-wise and overall-wise, was Northwestern at 4-8. Not sure. Obviously, I didn't get the conference wins right because I had them beating Indiana. But I know they beat Purdue and they beat Maryland. So it wasn't too far off there. Ohio State, I had them winning the conference 12-0. They finished 10-2. Oregon had their only loss being to Ohio State, which, you know, that game was back and forth, could have gone either way. Had them 11-1 to finish 12-0. Penn State, I had it 10-2, and they finished 11-1. I had them losing to USC at USC, and that was pretty close to happening as well. So wasn't too far off on that. Purdue, I anticipated as being way better than they were. I just thought they had some good pieces there. They had good quarterbacks, wide receivers. Didn't anticipate that they were not even going to be competitive this year. Had them at 5-7, finished 1-11, 0-9 in the conference. Rutgers, 8-4, finished 7-5. I anticipated them doing better in conference than they did, but they did better out of conference than they did in conference than I had anticipated. UCLA, I didn't have any hope for them winning a conference game, and they actually finished 5-7, won 3 conference games, which one of them against Iowa. USC, I had 9-3. They finished 6-6. Anticipated them to be a little bit better in conference, but they had a rough year too. Get to Washington, I had them at 5-7. They finished 6-6. Pretty close there. Conference-wise was the difference. One of those games within that conference, I think I had them losing to Rutgers, and they beat Rutgers or something like that. Oh no, they beat Michigan. That's
Michigan.
Right. Yeah. And then Wisconsin at 7-5, because I wasn't as overly confident in Wisconsin as you were. Finished 5-7. They were a huge disappointment in conference this year too, which is fine with me. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So overall, the only one I got right was Northwestern. But I wasn't too far off on several of them, and there was a couple of them I was way off on. So yeah, again, if you're a betting person, don't ask me to help pick horses or anything like that.
Right.
Clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about either. But it was a fun exercise to do. It was fun to try to put this together and see what we can come up with. And I think if you go it by historical, like you talked about, I think we probably would have been closer on some of these. But some years there's just some things are just an anomaly. Where the Indiana situation, who could have seen that coming?
Right.
Obviously, their coach saw it coming, or at least said he saw it coming. I don't know that he really truly believed it at first, but
I guess you just have to Google him.
Yeah, he is kind of an arrogant, cocky, confident coach. So,
yeah, but if he can back it up,
yeah, and he did this year. And
yep.
People saying that they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs, I disagree.
I disagree too.
Your 2 losses were to the national champion and the national runner-up. I think you deserve to be there. And I think both those games were, one was 16 points and the other one was 10 points.
Yeah.
Both technically on the road because you played at their stadium.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you acquitted yourself well.
Yeah.
So that's what we got. Again, don't go making bets based on what we say because we clearly don't know.
Yeah, but that was fun. I mean, and we'll do it again. And, it kind of helps me assimilate the new teams and seeing what their schedules look like. And, we talked about schedules with USC not traveling past the Rocky Mountains after October 19th, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was kind of okay, that's like treating them a little
That's
bit
a
too
layup.
nice. But this year, I hope that we don't see that again. I think their fun free season is over, and they're going to have to start making trips to Rutgers and to Penn State and to some of the places in November
Michigan.
that are traditionally cold. Michigan, Iowa, even. That way, they'll have a little bit of what we have to, we as a team have to face continually. Now, yeah, we're more probably accustomed to it, but by the same token, why would we have to be at a disadvantage if they don't want to come out and play in the cold?
Yeah. And you saw that when teams from the South had to play in those playoff games, had to play in the colder environments.
Yeah, ask Tennessee about that cold.
I don't know that made that much of a difference because you recruit nationally, and a lot of these kids have played in the cold weather anyway. But you think about a lot of those Southern teams, those SEC teams, a lot of their talent comes from the South. So yeah, maybe they're not playing in the cold, and it was a factor. Yeah, I don't know if it was much of a factor, but
I mean, think of the hotbeds. Think of the hotbeds of recruiting: Florida, Texas, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Those are California. But when you talk about the climates, you got Florida and Texas. Texas can get cool. Florida can get, I guess, in the northern part can get cool. But if you're getting a kid out of Miami, he's never seen snow before. He'd probably come up to Iowa and go, no thanks, this is too cold for me. And he'd head back. Same thing with California. You got California kids that are continuously just 75 degrees every day. And, they have to go and play Nebraska when it's 27 degrees. They're going to tell you it's a factor. I guarantee you. But we'll have to take a quick look at some point down the line. We'll look at the schedules, especially of the 4 teams. I'm not worried about too much about Oregon and Washington because they have cold days, but it's like I want to see UCLA and USC playing in the cold.
Yeah, let's get them up here in Pennsylvania in November, late November.
Yeah.
Or Wisconsin or Iowa.
Right. Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah.
Yep.
But this was fun. Yeah, like you said, this was fun to do, and we'll do it again this off season. Maybe we'll wait until closer to August to do it.
Yeah.
Where we have a little bit more of a opportunity to see what these teams have or what they might be coming back with. I think you get and having the new teams in, the 4 new teams in, will be a little bit easier this year because now we know what to expect out of them, or at least we have an idea of what they do. I didn't really watch a ton of Pac-12 games prior to. I mean, I knew obviously USC and Oregon were going to be good. I kind of figured Washington was going to take a step back with a new coach. That's kind of like what we thought with Indiana as well. And really didn't know much about UCLA other than they hadn't been the powerhouse that they had been in the past. So, now it's a little bit different. We'll have a little bit more data to go off of and maybe make a little bit better informed predictions. So we'll wait to see.
Yeah. Sometimes it comes down to where you're playing on the schedule and when you're playing that team on the schedule too. Because,
Absolutely.
Late cold games for USC might be more apt to go, maybe USC drops this one. And you would have normally, if it had been played in September, you'd say, no, this is a UCLA or USC all day.
Yeah.
Just have to kind of consider all things like that when you're doing this because it does make a difference. What do you think? Do you want to finish up with the question of the day or week?
Question of the week? Yep, let's do that.
Question of the week. Okay. Question of the week. Iowa Hawkeye basketball fans, well, any Hawkeye fan, will there be a new coach coaching the men's basketball team next season? That's the question. Will there be a new coach next season?
It's not a situation of do you want to see a new coach? It's whether you think there truly will be one. Yes, we all probably want to see a new coach at this point.
Everybody can say, well, I hope so, but that's not really an answer.
No.
I want an answer. Yes, I think there will be one, or no, I think he stays.
Yeah. All right. Good question. With that, let's wrap things up. As always, make sure you catch us on TikTok, Facebook, Obviously, you're watching us here on YouTube. We do have YouTube Shorts, so you can get a little bit of a snippet of what's going on. Also, try to catch us on Spotify, Blue Sky. Trying to put us out there on every platform I can find, potentially. Make sure you check us out on Facebook as well. We've got our Facebook page where you can answer the question of the day, leave your comments here. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you comment on it. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing, giving us a little bit of love, because we just want to make sure that we know that people are listening and people are out there watching, and we're getting quite a few views, but we're not getting a lot of subscribers. So if the subscribers are watching it multiple times, then that's one thing. But I don't think that we're watching
comment
more than once. So yeah, throw us some comments. Just tell us whether you think we're crazy at some of this stuff.
It's fine. Just
we're good with that.
Answer the question of the week. Just throw an answer in. We're not going to tell you you're wrong. This is an opinion question.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, don't forget, we do have our merchandise store up and running, and if you want to support that, that helps support the Swarm. We're donating all the profits and proceeds from that to the Iowa Swarm to help bring in better prospects now that we have to basically buy the players. So anything that you do there will help out the team at some point, and it does give you a nice little shirt or a cup or something like that to wear around. And if you do buy the shirt, wear it around and support the show, that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your listenership, and and keep up the good work listening and commenting, and just let us know you're out there. And we appreciate everything that the fans do, or everything that they give us as far as the views and the answers to the questions when they do. So we really, truly appreciate that. All right, let's wrap it up with a traditional Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
All right, Go Hawks.